The Indiana Pacers are up 3-1 on the Cavs. Didn't see this coming, exactly. If you go back and look at my original preview video, but I didn't also expect the Cavs to be battling injuries and issues with Evan Mobley in particular. I think that they've had different injuries, several ones, Garland, Mobley, and now Donovan Mitchell. But the most important one, I think, for their team in stopping the Pacers is Evan Mobley. If Evan Mobley was 100%, I think they would have had a little bit better job in defending the Pacers. But if the Pacers are moving the ball, shooting the way that they've been shooting, they've scored, 129 points last night was them taking the foot off the gas. They had 80 at halftime. To go up 80-39 in a half, I told my wife, I said, this looks like the 162-point game that they had against the Wizards. When the Pacers are clicking, when they are breaking you down, when they are making you make mistakes, like they did with the Cavs over and over and over again, the Pacers really figured out that 3-2 zone very early. It's no doubt that they looked at film, and Rick Carlisle made some great adjustments that allowed them to attack the gaps. They're playing that 3-2 zone where the Cavs try to fill the gaps in between the defender, the top of the key area, and the wing. They try to prevent you from getting into the lane and breaking down their defense that way. So the Pacers figured out a way to break down the defense without doing that by just having cutters cut and making one of the defenders, or sometimes two of the defenders would react by mistake, and the Pacers would just pick them apart. They'd hit a pass here, they'd kick it out to the three-point shooters, and the Pacers' three-point shots were falling this game early on as opposed to in Game 3. In Game 3, the shooters just really missed a lot of shots that they normally make. And in this one, Nesmith, Obi Toppin, Siakam even, he hit a couple threes in this game, which he had had a horrible time shooting. He had 5 straight games with less than 20 points when he averaged 20 points a game during the regular season. So we knew we were due for a Siakam game. But the Pacers, when they are clicking like that and the ball is moving, guys are cutting to the basket, they're getting dunks, they're getting layups. No, there's no team in the NBA that can really beat them when they're playing their best. And this was the first game of this series where the Pacers played to their full potential. I think having 3 point guards that are elite passers in Halliburton, Nembhard, and TJ McConnell, they always have 2 great passers on the floor at all times. Whether it's Halliburton and Nembhard, or Halliburton and McConnell, or McConnell and Nembhard, they generally play 2 really top-notch passers at the same time. And Siakam is a good passer as well for a forward. Myles Turner is probably the weakest passer on the team, but even he has figured out ways to find open men. So the Cavs don't have a chance. They didn't have a chance. And even if they were healthy when the Pacers were playing like that, and the Cavs are making so many silly mistakes on defense, there's no way that they could beat the Pacers. So I would probably say I underrated the Pacers in this sense, in the fact that I knew that they could beat the Cavs and possibly stretch this out to a 7-game series. But I didn't expect them to figure things out so well, figure out the Cavs defense, because the Cavs defense has been great pretty much all season. They have the defensive player of the year in Evan Mobley. So I didn't expect the Cavs defense to look as bad as it has looked in 3 of these 4 games. That's something that surprised me. Jarrett Allen has really looked ineffective. Jarrett Allen looks a lot like Brook Lopez. Tall, but just a little slow, getting up and down the court on the fast break. And I never thought that Jarrett Allen was a slow player. I didn't think that he was the type of player that wouldn't be able to keep up with Myles Turner. But Myles is just putting the pressure on him. And I wasn't sure how Myles was going to play because he kind of sprained his ankle a little bit in game number 3. But he came out just smoking and punishing every mismatch. They kept switching, putting Max Strus on him, and that did not work well at all. Myles just took him to the woodshed. In the same way with Siakam, too. They would switch and get Max Strus on Siakam, and the Pacers hunted that mismatch. They were looking for Max Strus, and to the point where he had to be pulled out a little bit early in that first quarter because the Pacers were getting whatever they want in the paint with Max Strus behind them. And that was smart. Get their best 3-point shooter off the floor by putting him in situations where he's going to pick up fouls or get punished and not be able to defend. Rick Carlisle, give Rick Carlisle a lot of credit. Rick Carlisle deserves a lot of credit for making the adjustments that he made and helping this team figure out the zone defense. The Pacers have struggled against the zone many, many times this season. even worse last year. But this year they've done a better job against the zone. But game 3, they just couldn't figure out what to do for whatever reason. It was almost like they didn't expect it or didn't see it coming. And we saw a little bit of that happen as well against the Bucks in game 3. So maybe it's just a game 3 thing. Maybe game 3s are a little tough for them. But whatever adjustments they made, and the adjustments seemed to be basically attack those seams with cutters. So instead of just setting the pick and popping out, they did a lot of cutting. Either from the baseline, Siakam would cut, duck in, get into the lane, which basically forces one of those 3 guys up top to kind of react a little bit. The person on the block especially has to come over and react. The person on the block is supposed to be guarding the corner, the 3-point shooter in the corner. So if Siakam is ducking in really hard, getting inside position, then somebody on the corners are going to be open, which means one of the 3 defenders up top is going to have to rotate. And so once you make those defenders move and rotate, the Pacers are so good at just picking them apart, finding out who's open. And they don't have to be wide open. So some of these threes that they were hitting weren't completely open, but the defender was at least 6 feet away. And that's a lot of daylight for guys to just knock down, baseline corner shots. So that's what pretty much happened in this game. That was the story. Donovan Mitchell, if he's hurt, he came out at the beginning of the halftime, right at the end of halftime, beginning of the third quarter for shoot around, warm up. And he looked like he was just going to shoot a 3-pointer, and he couldn't push off his leg. They were saying it's an ankle injury. I hope it's nothing serious. It's just a sprained ankle or something along those lines, but it didn't look good. Non-contact, nobody touched him, and he just bent down and couldn't push himself back up and struggled to stand up straight after that. I'm not even going to speculate on what the injury is. He's going to have an MRI, and we'll know soon enough. But to me, it didn't look like an injury that he's going to be able to play the rest of the series. It didn't look like something that you just tape it up, get some massage and some therapy and be okay. I think, just my opinion, I think this is something that's going to keep him out for a significant amount of time. And if that is the case, this is over. I think it's over in 5. Honestly, without Donovan Mitchell there, their offense just doesn't work the same. Now, I think they might hit shots better at home. Your role players tend to play better at home. But I think the will of this team just seemed to be so broken. If you looked at the bench in the third quarter of that game, at the end of the second quarter, but especially in the third quarter, that was a defeated bunch. They looked deflated completely without any energy. I mean, the Cavs players weren't even talking to each other. They were just staring out into space, zoning out, thinking about how far they've come from a 64-win team to a team that's probably going home in the second round again. And some of it is not their fault. The injuries are beyond their control. It's not their fault. But a lot of it is. Their defense has been really bad in some of these games. And it's not necessarily that they're not a good defensive team. It's that the Pacers just know how to make you move in the wrong direction, try to get you thinking they're going one way and then doing the complete opposite. The Pacers don't run their offense like most traditional teams, where we're going to try this action. If it doesn't work, we might reset, try it again. But they don't ISO ball either. They don't play much isolation ball, which allows the other defenders to kind of lock in to what they're doing on their man. The Pacers are constantly moving, and you don't know who's going to score. The Pacers have 5 guys in the playoffs that are averaging 14 or more points per game. They had Toppin, Siakam, and Myles Turner score 20-plus points in this game. You don't know who's going to score from one game to the next. Tyrese only scored 11 points, and the Pacers didn't even need him to score in this game. Typically, we want Tyrese to score more because it puts pressure on the defense, but they didn't even need that this game. Nembhard, Nesmith, they've all had 20-point-plus games in this series, in this playoffs. Benedict Mathurin as well, who got kicked out for a stupid play, decision to kind of jab Hunter in the stomach, didn't even play in this game. They didn't even need his regular 16 points that he gets per game. But the Pacers have so many different guys that can score, so that if you take away 1 or 2 of their options, they're like, well, we'll just rotate another guy in and he'll make shots. It's very rare for them to struggle as a team shooting offensively, but it does happen, and it happened in game 3. And probably once per series, they have a game like that. But those other games, you got to really be on top of your stuff to be able to stop the Pacers. And so I think the Pacers close this out Tuesday night, barring, anything crazy happening. I just don't think guys like Max Strus, Dean Wade, Merrill, or Ty Jerome are built for the playoffs in the long term. I don't think they're going to be able to shoulder the burden of the scoring load. I think the Pacers defense is too good to let those guys go off without Mitchell being in the lineup. Mitchell drew a lot of attention away from the Pacers so that Strus could have some good games. But I don't think that's going to happen without him being out there on the floor. It's going to be too easy to lock down, run those guys off the three-point line, and force them to try to score on the move, which is not their bread and butter. They can do it, but that's not the way that they typically play. So Pacers are probably going to move on. Cavs had a good season, regular season, and they're going to be left to ponder a lot of questions this offseason. But they really shouldn't hang their hat and feel bad because they can always use the injury excuse. Yeah, that's what every team does when they play the Pacers anyway. It's injuries. All they do is beat injured teams. They're injured team merchant or whatever the case may be. But you got to start asking yourself, why do all these teams get injured when they play the Pacers? And the lazy thing is to say the Pacers are dirty or they just play too physical and they hurt people. That's stupid. That's lazy. Most of these injuries aren't even happening on contact. Guys just coming down on a stationary person's foot. That's the offensive player's fault. That it's an accident and nobody plans that. It's not like they're getting hammered. There's been one person that got hammered, and that was DeAndre Hunter in game one, and he got injured. But other than that, these injuries are just use injuries. You try to run with the Pacers, you can do that for a few games, but they run so relentlessly. Most of these other teams are not used to that, especially the Cavs, because they had it so easy against the Miami Heat. They didn't really have to play guys for long extended minutes. The Miami Heat were so bad that they didn't have to put forth nearly as much effort trying to chase down shooters and run fast break and guard and transition. Multiple games will break down most teams, and that's what we've seen these past two playoffs. People talk about the Knicks guys. All these guys got hurt. You got to ask yourself, how did they get hurt? Those Knicks players had high usage, 40 minutes per game players that got hurt. If you rely on your starters that much against a team like this that is constantly rotating fresh guys in and that all players on the team are in great condition and can run all game long, you are going to be in trouble, especially if your bench guys are not used to that. If you have to play your bench guys more now because you're trying to keep up with the Pacers' running style, those bench guys aren't used to having to play this much. And so they're going to get winded and tired. And I think that's ultimately was what we're seeing happen. All right, we'll look forward to the next one. And until then, take it easy.